Hi guys, and welcome to Forge Wright. Thanks for dropping in. If you haven't seen the channel before, my name's Andy. The channel is based around learning to become a blacksmith, starting as an absolute beginner. I cover setting up the forge, making the tools required to start smithing, learning basic techniques, and developing your skills. I also make metal fabrication videos, which can be very helpful when trying to build some of the tools and equipment that you'll need to use in the workshop. So, let's roll the intro and get started on today's video. In today's video, I'll be making a small anvil for my grandson Ayden, who is only 9 years old, but is very keen to get into blacksmithing. So this is for you, Ayden. You won't see this until I've made it and given it to you, but I will post this after I have given you the anvil and you can see the process that I went through in making it for you. Okay, so at first I wasn't going to record this video because I thought, oh, if I post the video, then Ayden will see the anvil and it won't be a surprise. But then I thought, well, it'll be very useful for anybody else who wants to make a similar item for a child that they know. And also it'll be very good for Ayden to be able to go back later and have a look at the process that I undertook to make this for him. And unfortunately, I started the project thinking I wasn't going to record it. So I've done a few things, but I'll fill you in on what I have done, how I went about doing that, and then continue on from where I'm up to with a bit of footage of what I'm doing. Okay, hope you enjoy. Righto, well I started off by taking a length of forklift tine and got the oxy and cut a piece off the end of the other piece. So that piece has been cut off there. Not incredibly straight, but much quicker than doing it with a grinder, as in a cut-off wheel on a grinder. I cut this piece off with the grinder, and believe you me, forklift tine 4140, it takes some time and you use a lot of cut-off discs. So this piece has been removed from here, and I have then cut into here and across sideways. Just give me a second. So I've cut down in through here to get the two outside edges. Then I came in on an angle, on a 45-degree angle, and cut corner to corner, which took that corner out. Did the same thing coming down through here, corner to corner, took that bit out, sliced into it, and then got the large grinder in and took all that material out of there. So being the size of anvil it is, I'm making it with a 20mm hardy hole, not a 25mm hardy hole. So that should be plenty big enough for this anvil to be able to put some cut-off tools and various other hardy tools into. So that piece, I've started chamfering that. There are not enough chamfers on the edges, but there's my block of main block that's going to sit there. This piece will then be chamfered on this side, obviously. I'm going to clean up all these rough edges to get them nice and straight, much like I've been doing there. They've got to be finished, get them square. Then I shall bunt them, well, actually goes that way, bunt them up against each other and deep weld all the way around. That should do the trick. So you can hit it pretty hard and it's not going to just snap off. So that will give him his hardy hole, and I'm going to cut this off here. So that will be where the toe of the anvil goes. So if you can imagine it the other way around at this point in time, so imagine that's like that. And then I've cut off these two pieces of mild steel. They are, from memory, inch mild steel, although I might be wrong. Yes, they're 25mm. So two pieces of 25mm mild steel square that I'm going to chamfer and weld all the way around, clean up, and then weld to the face of there, which will be his step. Righto. I then took a piece of railroad track, railway line. This bit's all chewed up here and has a bend in it, and this bit here is quite bent up and not real good.
but the other end of it was quite nice. So what I've done is I've done a basic cutout. Let me drop that down. So I cut this piece here with the oxy out of there as a basic startup. Sorry for putting my head in front of the camera, that was dumb, wasn't it? So cut that piece out of there as a basic startup, got rid of that. Then I got in with the oxy and cut him off on a rough angle there, and then off on a 45. Then did a rough angle of the horn. So once cleaned up, that will be a nice horn. These two pieces here will come out to roughly about there, because once I've cleaned it up, those pieces will run right out to about there. It's just I didn't want to get into those with the oxy. They'll be done with the grinder. So that gives about 6 inches, 150 mil of horn. That will then lead into the step. That will then lead into the main body of the face, and then that will lead into the foot, sorry, the heel of the anvil with the hardy hole. And having done all of that, that will end up being about 42 millimeters long, about 17 inches long for you guys in the US, 42 mil long. I think that will be a good size for a young fella to start learning how to get his hammering technique together. Okay, I'll leave it there and catch some more footage. Won't show you a lot of the grinding, but I'll just give you some update pictures of what I'm doing. Okay, bye for now. Don't like having loose things dangling around when I'm using a grinder.
Righto, so I've chamfered these edges off here. I'm now going to do the same thing up this side and this side, exactly the same thing down the bottom. Make sure the piece that's being welded to here has exactly the same angle, generally 55 degrees angle on the joining faces. Then I can start welding her up. Really heavy material. Got some large chamfers in here to get some really deep welds in. You got to preheat it. Now, I'm going to be using the oxy down here, so I'll be grabbing this torch and I'll be heating this up to get good heat in there. You don't have to heat all the way around, of course, and I'm going to be tack welding it first, and then I can get these pliers off. So I'll just heat here and here, then I'll flip it over and heat, just get a bit of heat into it, do my tack welds, whip this off, this clamp off, give it a good heat all over, and then give it a good weld. You won't get good penetration unless you get your material preheated, mate. As you can see, I probably really can't, but I've got some really good blue colour in there. Time to start doing some tacking. just try and show you a few first pass welds. Right, so that's the V without any weld done, obviously. That's a first pass weld, doesn't have to be neat, just has to get good penetration deep down into the V. Another one there, and around on the other side. So that gets me the first stage done. And I'll keep going now until I finish, because I've got some really good heat into the stock now. So preheating is important for that first pass, but obviously the first pass gets a much deeper heat into the material. I'm struggling to hold on to the end of that just to move it around and show you. I have to do that one. I didn't realise I hadn't done that one, but I'll move the camera away for that. I may as well finish this side now rather than going around, because it's all well and truly welded all around. It's not going to move because I work on one side or the other. Not now. So I'm going to fix up this edge here, and then I'm going to run down the middle with another weld coming from this direction. I've got to be careful going up to the hardy hole. I don't want to have too much grinding to do.
Okay, well, I've welded on the section to create the hardy hole, and now I'm doing a clean up with the grinder. As you can see, I've taken the stone wheel off of the old grinder and put the multi-tool on that I've had sitting in a box for quite some time. I've purchased a new grinder which is soon coming in the mail, and I'll be setting that up with both a grinding wheel and a small wheel to do fullers and things in hammers. So that'll be coming in a future video. As you can see, I've got a nice clean finish on it here, so I won't put you through much of this grinding, but just wanted to show the new tool and the fact that I used it to clean up this striking surface. Okay, I've moved onto the table now. I've just tacked the ends on one side, and I'll flip it over and tack the other side before I run a bead down, and then flip it over and do a bead on the other side before I finally weld up the ends. I'm just going to get a good earth, and then I'll start welding. Okay, well, I'm just pointing out a few rough spots here. There's a big hole in here and a few little pits and marks. Most of it's pretty good all along here. The other side's pretty good, so that'll probably be the side that I choose to face upwards. Definitely going to fix this edge along here because it'll be showing, but the rest of it will be welded to the base, so I'll just pick the best side to face upwards. Okay, I've got this looking pretty good now, so give it a bit of a wipe there. You can see it's pretty shiny and smooth. This side's not so much so because it's the side that's facing down, but I've got a good deep chamfer along there now. Probably make it a little bit bigger, but the next thing to do is get this edge the same, so I'll chamfer that so it meets up with that really nicely. You can see the marks on that side. That's the bit that goes onto the base. So I'll chamfer that along there, but what I've got to do is make sure that it only comes to this edge here, because I don't want to chamfer the bit that's sticking up from the table. So I'll come along to there, cut a little groove into that point, and chamfer from that point on. That should turn out pretty well. That's looking pretty good now, so I'll drop that down, push her up to there, and clamp her up, get it nice and solid, and then weld her up. Well, I decided I'd get the file and give this hardy hole a good clean out before I weld on the table.
Okay, so I jump in here with the square file and start filing away, and as you can see the leg vise is rocking around all over the place. I have to put my foot on it to secure it, but I'm totally over that. So as you'll see in future videos, I got sick of it and I've well and truly secured it down now, so that's not a problem into the future. I won't show much of this filing because it's really not very exciting. Right, so back to putting this chamfer into the edges where the table's going to be welded on. As you can see, I'm using the edge of the belt grinder here to put a nice 55-degree chamfer in there. This thing works really good. You just, once you get it started, it's easy to locate, and you can put a good even 55-degree angle in, and then you can just flip it over and locate it on the other side. I'm just using that line there as a marker to tear the gear off. Works exceptionally well, nice and even, and you've got pretty good control. You just got to, that's it, just lean that right hand side in more to get it a nice square finish, and yeah, works really well. And now I can weld on the table. There you go, you can see it really well on this angle with this light, so it puts a beautiful edge on there to weld up to. Clearly I'm going to have to put a same bevel on that bottom edge as well, but it's looking good. Righto, you can see here I've got this level clamp to the table. I've got this clamp holding the level to this striking plate. I've got the table here hooked on to the striking plate with this clamp holding it, squeezing it that way. This one here is holding it down nice and tightly to the table, because the last thing I want is it to start moving, lifting and twisting when I start putting the heat into it. But this doesn't need a chamfer in there, that's just a nice corner weld. I haven't bothered showing the bevel on the bottom, but it's exactly the same as the ones on the other sides. Okay, just putting some spot welds in here. Whack one in the middle to start off with. That didn't work real well. Ended up getting a bit of stickage to it, so just give it another clean up and have another go at it. So come back to this edge here and put a spot on that corner. That worked a little bit better. Now I do tend to do a lot of cleaning of the tip and then trimming back of the welding wire. Just helps to get a good contact the next time. So I'll put a third tack in this corner, and that's sorted that side out. Right, so as you can see I've taken all the clamps off it and flipped her over, but now I'm just putting this one back on here because I want to get it nice and tight on here so that I can put this weld down this side. Last thing I want is to having this thing bow in that direction. Right, we'll stick a tack in this corner. Nice one. And then come up the other end and whack one in here. Making these pretty big because I want to pull it back the other way a little bit. Third one in the middle. That'll make sure it pulls in nice and tight, and then I can do a full run through later. Right, here we go. Time to do a full run through the bottom. As you can see, I got this on fast forward about 8 times, so there you go. Nice run through, looks pretty good. Okay, whacking a full run through the top now. I won't make you sit through a lot of this, but suffice to say there was a lot of welding and a lot of grinding. As you can see, I've got the horn starting to look pretty good now. As much as I can do with the 9-inch grinder. The rest would be done after it's all put together and looking a lot more like an anvil. I'll then start doing all the cleanup of these sharp edges and getting it perfectly round and fixing up the point and whatnot. But I've
made a decision that I'm going to get the oxy out and cut further into here, down there, and come straight down, because when the table comes to there, this then projects past the table. When the table comes to here, this then projects past the table, so I'm going to bring that back to there and cut it down so that the arc comes out to here, down to there, and then the edge of the table can come to here and not be in behind the front end of the anvil. Also give more horn to work with when moving stock around here, coming in from different angles. You won't be hitting that. So that's the next step. Okay, just wanted to point out where I'm up to here. So this is the railway track that I've started making the base out of. As you know, I made the horn, cut that out with the oxy and ground it up, cut all that out there and that across there with the oxy. Rather than cutting again with the oxy, because I actually ran out of acetylene, I've got my new Evolution cold cut saw. I thought, bugger it, I'll give a hard test for the first cut, and I whacked this whole railway track on, took it over on its side and started cutting, and no kidding, it cut through this thing like butter. As you can see here, that's a beautiful smooth finish. I'll just bring that in a little bit, show you how well that has cut that. And I would say that cut in probably 2.5 minutes. If I'd have done that with a grinder, a cut-off wheel, that would have taken me half an hour, and I'd probably go through 5 or 6 discs. I then thought, okay, now I've got to make the scallop in here and have the setback. So I stood it on its edge again, and I cut down in, and I cut another slice off. That piece there, without having to go through this, probably took me 30 seconds to cut that entire piece out of there to a depth that was to there. I then used an angle grinder to cut this piece in here, which took that out of there, and that left this to be cut. So I got my angle grinder and put some nice little straight cuts in there, give it a hit with the hammer to snap a lot of them off, and then just got the 9-inch grinder and then rounded that out. So I think that's looking pretty good. So we've got a pretty good cut all the way down. I accidentally snicked it there with the 9-inch grinder when I was doing this. I was going up like that and accidentally caught that. I actually coming in from this way, going like that, and then slipped off the end and caught that, but I'll clean that up. It's no big deal. But that's actually worked extremely well. So happy with that Evolution cold cut saw. Brilliant. This is something here I will weld up. I'll weld that up and then grind it back so that's a nice even surface there. So now I'll grab the base. So what I'll do is I'll put that over there. This is the top surface, striking surface of the anvil with the hardy hole on, as I've pointed out already in earlier sections of the video. So I'll flip that over, that goes there. I'm going to grind this down all the way so that it's meeting right out to the edge of here and the edge of here. So there's a fair bit to come off there and even more to come off this, because I didn't take off very much off this end here. It hooks up a little bit at this end. So a lot of grinding to do there. And then this will be welded on to here, just short of the hardy hole here, so material can pass all the way through. So that goes on there. That lines up in the middle of there, and then it will be deep welded down into the junction in there and the junction in here. Well, I'm going to leave it there now, guys. That's part 1 of Ayden's anvil build. It's coming along pretty good. I'm hoping this video isn't too long for you. There's a fair bit of work involved in it, and I'm trying to go through as much of it as possible, so anybody else that wants to do the same thing has a pretty good instructional video and can see exactly how I went about it.
Part 2 shouldn't be too far behind. I'm separating it into two videos because it would be way too long in one, and I've got most of the recording of the second part 2, already done, but not edited. So hope you enjoy part 1 of this build and are keen to come back and watch part 2. Please feel free to make any comments down below if you fancy, and of course you can always subscribe, and there'll be videos up here and playlists up here for you to check out if you feel like it. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Make sure you give it the thumbs up if you like the video, and maybe pass the video on to your friends so I can get a few extra viewers. Look forward to seeing you next time when I do part 2, and thanks for watching Forge Wright. Bye for now.